All right, it is now an instant reaction for the boxing pay-per-view that we saw over the weekend with Tank Davis defending his WBA lightweight championship against Lamont Roach Jr. Again, instant. I was doing some work on Saturday, so could not watch this live, but it is still wanted to get this reaction. I watched it today, so at the very least, it's my instant reaction to it. For the rest of y'all, you might have seen this one already, but either way, very interesting fight. So coming in, the story is Tank Davis is awesome. And so, okay, that's like, he's a pound for pound excellent fighter. And on the other side, you have Lamont Roach, who we mentioned before, coming off of a loss, and trying or not coming off of a loss, but has built up after a loss, and is trying to kind of get back on track here. He gets the biggest fight of his career, has to move up a little bit, but how much can he hang here? Can he be the banana peel that Tank Davis slips on? And for the first 5 rounds of the fight, the answer was absolutely positively not. It wasn't there, in my opinion. And then we got 6 of the best rounds of boxing that you will see in any weight class, at any level. It was some very, very high level stuff from both of these guys. In the end, it ends up being a majority draw. So the closest to a blemish on the Tank Davis resume. And now, where do you go from here? So many interesting questions to ask about this particular fight. Very interested to see what happens with this one going forward. But I thought the big story of the fight was, I thought early on, Roach had a few very winnable rounds, but he was so worried about poking the bear with Tank that he just kind of didn't take it. He was just accepting that instead of just getting the fuck punched out of me by this guy who has otherworldly power, even though he's not the biggest dude in the world, I'm gonna let him be him for the first 5 rounds. And we know what a Tank Davis fight looks like. He's kind of, unless it's Ryan Garcia, he's gonna ease into things. He's gonna take his time, download the information. He's a Floyd Mayweather fighter. Gonna download that information, figure out where it's gonna go, and we'll work from there. And there were a lot of times where if Roach would have thrown literally like 3 more punches, like just a bop, 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 he wins the round. But he was content just letting Tank not hit him and not really wanting to poke the bear, that I thought he let a lot of very winnable rounds go away. And then as the fight is going on, I had Tank winning. I had Tank up 115, 113. So I completely agreed with one judge and disagreed with 2 others on 1 round. Not a robbery by any stretch of the imagination. But I thought every round where, this is going to sound very oversimplified, I guess. I thought every round that Tank did stuff, he did well, right? Like, every round that Tank was really firing away, he was the one landing the more impactful shots. And there was a couple rounds, I think it was the 10th, I don't have the notes in front of me, but he landed like 3 punches. That round, he wasn't doing nothing, and it let Roach get back into that fight. But it really did seem like Tank just kind of figured, like he's laughing his way through the first few rounds, he figured once he turned it on, he'd be able to put that guy away. And that wasn't really the case. He turned it on, and he landed some shots, man. Like, there was a punch that looked like it was out of a movie. He lands the right coming across. Roach even does, like, the movie, like, bam! Like, his face just go, like, his whole body just, like, boom. And it wasn't a rolling with the punch. It was, I just got punched. And it kind of knocked him around a little bit. And so, like, Tank was very obviously landing, but Roach was not walking through it, but Roach was taking him. And then he's coming forward, and he has Tank on his back foot for a little bit. And Tank, who is one of the best counterpunchers in the sport right now, Tank's getting countered by Roach. And so as the fight goes on, it is 2 parts. It is 1, Roach is doing so much better than I thought he was doing, and he's still kind of losing. But then he starts to really put it on a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more. And the calls from his corner to follow up that jab are now being listened to. And that piston jab that he has, it's so quick. He's able to use it to kind of clear out the gloves of Tank and then come through with a nice right. And then you have Tank, who is looking to counter. Well, then Roach is countering the counter, and we get some unbelievable exchanges. And so, like I said, if you have the means to go get this again, or Matey, go back and watch rounds 6 through 12 and just see how crazy this sport can be, because it was so good. And by the end, it was like if you had just like copy and pasted 6 through 12 into 1 through 6, we're talking about one of the greatest fights of all time. And still, it would be an unbelievable 6-round fight for what we got. But this obviously causes a bit of commotion now, because it was kind of assumed that Tank was going to win this one. It was probably going to be Dope, and then he was going to fight probably Shakur Stevenson sometime either Q4 of 2025 or into the early part of 2026, depending on when the little bones in Shakur Stevenson's hand get to heal up. That still probably happens. As great as Roach was, I don't know if the entire world is clamoring for a rematch for this right away. But it does put Roach into that conversation now to get back into this. And so I think you have now all of a sudden a surprise contender emerges out of this whole thing. And someone that you can, like, well, we are so used right now where all of these big fights are happening with undisputed or unified belts on the line. And so it's okay, well, this is for the big one. That's not the case at lightweight. Tank actually only holds one of the 4. And so Roach may have worked his way into getting a couple of belts, because I'm forgetting the guy's name off the top of my head, but there's another dude who's got 2 of the belts at lightweight. And so that is an opportunity there for him. And so it did kind of feel like a star was born, because Roach did everything you could have asked for him, and then some. Like I said, like, he was countering Tank, and no one does that, because you're not around long enough to do it, because once Tank starts throwing, you're not conscious long enough to fire back, so there is no ability to counter in those sorts of ways. It is it just ends up being detrimental. But not only, he was winning some of those exchanges, and the hand speed was so impressive, and it is why you got a little bit frustrated in the early parts of the round, because it is just like, it's, as you watch it going on, it's like, man, you got something there. Like, that jab is good, and the hand speed is so quick that you can just kind of bop and get out and really be able to, I don't want to say control things, because very few can do that against Tank, but very few can put Tank on the back foot in the way that Roach did. So it was a very, very impressive performance from Lamont Roach, with, again, the hand speed that he showed, the power that he showed, and a lot of the technique to be able to get inside. On the Tank front, obviously it feels like a step back, because he's never lost, and he's only not knocked a guy out once. And now he faced a guy who stood and banged with him and didn't quite get the best of him, but didn't get the worst of it either. It has to be a little eye-opening, I think, for Tank Davis. And I don't think he's ever going to change his style. I don't think we're going to get all of a sudden a knockdown, drag-out fight from Tank in the first 5 rounds, because, again, he's taking in all that information and kind of growing with it as fights go on. And then, like, this wasn't just a one-sided thing that the judges just gave to Tank. Like, it was a very close fight. And when Tank was having his success, again, it was him with some fantastic counter punches. He did lead the dance really well a few times too. Like, he was digging to the body great, and he was starting to put those combos together. And it was so interesting to see how after the 6th round, it flipped. It was like, well, now I'm going to try to kill you. And the foot speed is there, and the power is there. And he's landing these digging shots after digging shots after digging shots to the body, and making some of those investments. But those punches normally put guys away, and they weren't, and Roach was still coming forward, and it had Tank on the back foot a little bit more than he is accustomed to. There was also the controversy in the moment where 9th round, Tank eats a shot, and then, as he explained after, there was a thing with how his hair was washed, and it kind of dripped into his eyes a little bit, and so he took a knee, and then ran over to the corner to try to get his eyes wiped. But he got punched before that. And so, like, I get that is a next level of calm that I will never have, and I'm not in a ring getting punched, but just the thought of, oh no, I'll take a knee and just go get my face wiped. It's no big deal. This is only pay-per-view television for a world title on the line. Don't worry about it, it'll be fine. And instead, it's, sir, you are in a fist fight with tens of, if not hundreds of millions of dollars on the line. Do you mind just fucking not for a minute? And so I am stunned, and I get he wasn't knocked down, but I am stunned that a guy went to a knee after getting punched in the brain, and it didn't lead to a knockdown. That is just, it is wild to me that that happened. And if it did, if it would have, then the scorecards are different. So, not an it was an impactful moment in that fight, and I don't think it was a game changer or anything like that. I don't even disagree with the call necessarily. I'm just surprised that it went the way that it did, and it could have shifted things because that fight ends up being obviously very, very close with the majority draw. So what is next from here is probably still Tank Davis against Shakur Stevenson, but I think Roach works his way into one where if he wins another fight, and you could put a belt on the line in another fight for him, he gets the winner of that one as they get to do that again. So a new contender born in boxing's lightweight division, and Tank Davis back to the drawing board a bit as that he wasn't just able to turn it on and cruise to a victory anymore. And I don't think it means it's diminishing power, because boy, those shots look like they were landing hard. But it's maybe just the slightest bit of a wake-up call, like, hey, instead of taking half the fight to download all that info, can we just even a round or two sooner, and we can probably just wrap that thing up, hey? So a little bit of a learning experience, I think, for one Tank Davis, who was definitely getting frustrated in there as some moments were going on in that fight. All right, that is going to do it for the stream and for the podcast today. Thank you all so much for hanging out. Gonna have Couch Potato Diary back in its more normal setting tomorrow. That is gonna be at 10 a.m. Some big trades happening in the NFL and in the NHL. We'll talk about that. We'll continue to react to WWE Elimination Chamber, as well as a couple more notes on this fight. We got some UFC stuff coming up. AEW has a pay-per-view this weekend, so it's going to be a very, very, very busy show. Wherever you're taking this in, check us out at 10 a.m. On Couch Potato Diary on twitch.tv/primetimepk, over on kick.com/primetimepk as well. Thank you guys so much for hanging out today. Talk to y'all later. I am out.